Good morning, everyone. Um, I'm here this morning at Meter for a recovery meeting, and I am very grateful to God because January the 2nd, I'll have 14 years clean and sober. And I'm making this video for the ones that are still out there hurting, for the ones that seem like they have no voice, for the ones that feel lonely, unloved, unneeded, unappreciated. A lot of times people have perception of others, and a lot of times we put our mouth on others when we don't know their circumstances, we don't know what they're going through, what they've been through, or where they come from, or where they going. And I remember before I got clean and sober, and everybody has a story, and everybody has a reason, and some of us didn't choose to be on drugs and alcohol. Some of us it was given to us as small children, and by the time we became teenagers, we were addicted. However, in my case, I was between 5 and 6, and my mother would always tell me, "Black gal, go light mama's cigarette." And she would wake me up early Saturday mornings and say, "Come on, black gal, have a cup of coffee with mama." And I would get up, sleepy-eyed, and sit at the table, and she would make me a cup of coffee in her cup, and she would pour vodka in hers and vodka in mine, and she would light up a joint. And I remember the first time she said, "Hit this, black gal," and I puffed, and she say, "No, do." And when I did what she told me to do, I choked to death, but I loved the feeling after that. And when I started getting molested at the age of 5, and when I told my mother when he first touched me, she whooped me and told me to stop lying. And so after that, I never said anything else to her about it. And then one day, when I turned about 6 and a half, she caught him. But instead of her confronting him, she confronted me and beat me. And so I began to steal alcohol. I began to steal cigarettes. And I'll never forget the time that she caught me in the bathroom smoking cigarettes. I had 3 cigarettes in my mouth, y'all, puffing. The smoke was coming out of the bathroom door. And she snatched the door open and she slapped me in the mouth. And I swallowed cigarette fire and all. And she said, "God damn it, if you're gonna smoke, then you're gonna buy your own cigarettes." And so I would get allowance. We would get allowance every Friday, and that's what I started doing. My first cigarette was a Pound Mail, red, short. And so when I turned 7 and a half, she said, "When you turn 7 and get ready to turn 8, everybody in this house gonna get a job and support your own habit, buy your own school clothes, so forth and so on." So Christmas coming up, Daddy bought me a little pink bicycle with the little flag. You remember the little ribbon hanging on each one? And he bought me a little red wagon, and put me a basket on the front of the basket. And Mama's came to, she said, "You gonna throw newspaper and cut yards on Saturdays and Sunday mornings." And so that's what I did. And knowing that this man was going to touch me, I would steal alcohol so I wouldn't feel anything. So by the time I turned 13, I was a full-blown alcoholic. Now, this wasn't by choice. And so, but I found that in doing drugs and alcohol, it relieved the pain. I didn't have to feel anything. I can make believe that I was somewhere else. And this went on for years. And I said this to say that you don't know the pain someone is going through. And you always want to put your mouth on them or pass by them, or they ask for a cup of coffee, or they ask for a few dollars, and you act like you're too good to give it to them. And that I have a problem with that. But at the same time, everybody has their own way of handling things and looking at things. But I want to tell you, it's hell out here on these streets. I was homeless for over 15 years. At one point, my family turned their back on me. I turned my back on myself, wanting to die, but death didn't want me. Tried to commit suicide many times. Went to prison for aggravated assault on a police officer because he slapped me and called me a black nigga bitch, and I like to kill him because I was beaten so much as a child coming up. I went to school with black eyes and big lips. And so the day I turned 18, I would never let another man do what he wanted to do to me. And I would never let nobody else put their hands on me ever again. And I remember when I turned 18 and my mother was fussing at me or cussing me out about something, and I just downed my head and turned my back to walk off. And I remember she said, "Bitch, don't you turn your back on me." And I remember I turned around to say, "Well, Mom," and she raised her fist up to hit me. And when she raised her fist, I put my hand up and said, "Mama, I ain't never talked back to you before in my life, but if you hit me, I'm gonna fuck you up." And I remember her eyes getting big, and she said, "What did you say?" I said, "If you hit me, I'm gonna fuck you up." Because I was tired. I was tired of getting molested. My stepbrothers molested me. My father molested me. One of my brothers raped me. I was gang raped twice. And so to me, I felt like nothing but a piece of meat. And the only thing that took away that power was alcohol and drugs. And so I remember she saying, "What have I ever did to you?" And I just started naming stuff. And I didn't do that. And I became angry because how dare you stand in my face and tell me what you didn't do to me? How many times you made me lay there and watch him have sex with me? So it was pain that made me turn to the only thing that I felt gave me comfort. And I remember her saying, at times, it would be different guys. "Oh, your daughter did this, or your daughter did that." And I remember her going, "Sister, I'm scared for you." I said, "Mama, don't be scared for me. I'm the monster you created." Because I was, y'all. I became a monster. I didn't take nothing off of nobody, especially a man. And I remember when I was 18 years old and I got off from work, and guy walked up to me. I didn't know him. I was in the store, it was my time to buy the 40 ounce for the guys, and that's all I hung around. And I jogged every morning. Every chance I got, I jogged before I went to work, or I jogged that evening when I got off work. So this was on a Saturday, so I got through jogging, and my homeboys and them said, "Your turn to buy the 40. So I went in the store, and I remember hearing the bell ring. And I looked, I seen this guy walked in, never seen him before. So I went on here to finish ordering what I wanted. And the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. And when I came to, all my partners had ran in, and the guy behind, it was a guy that came, I said, what happened? And the owner of the place said, "The guy hit you." And so this other guy that was there, he said, "I know who he is." I said, "Okay." So my homeboys and them said, "We gonna take care of it." I said, "No, y'all not. He didn't hit you. He hit me." And so I went home, I changed clothes, and everybody knew when I put a bandana, my hair was long, I would tie a bandana around my head, and I put on what I call whip-ass clothes, forgive my French. And I remember my niece, and which was my baby, and she said, Mama said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm finna go to the store." And then my mother said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Oh, ain't nothing wrong, Mama." And my niece said, "Can I go to the store with you, ain't it?" And I said, "No, baby." And so my mother said, "It's something wrong." She said, "You don't never tell her no." And I said, "Ain't nothing wrong, Mama." I said, "Okay, come on, you can go with Ain't It." So I walked up to Billa Filling Station on Jensen and Benetton, and I got me 50 cents worth of gas in a beer bottle. And I gave the guy $20 to show me where the nigga stayed, and he did. The nigga stayed in an apartment in Auto Villa. And I told my niece, I said, "You stand on the side." I said, "And what I'm finna do, you better not never say nothing to nobody about it." And I knocked on the nigga door, and I already had the lighter struck. And when he opened the door, I dashed him with gas and threw a light on him. And he was screaming and hollering. Everybody was outside, and now I heard people saying, "Oh, she done set him on fire." Well, I took my niece by the hand. I went home. I ate, took a shower, took a bath, and went to bed. FBI came to my mama's house and got me. And I said all of this to say, pain. Nobody has a right to put their hands on nobody. And I wasn't taking it from nobody. But in all of that, in going to prison and being locked up at the county jail, I was such a bad actor. Even the warden in prison said, "Ma'am, please don't never come back to our prison." And I told him, "Sir, you ain't got to worry about me. If I ever come back, it'll be for murder." But since that time, I give the glory to God because God has changed me. And I used to tell people, you better thank God that God changed me, because in changing, I would allow a lot of stuff to occur, and I had to change my perception of what was going on, or what people said, or what people did. And I had to learn to allow God to fight my battles. I didn't know what joy was. I didn't know what peace was. I mean, people would walk by you with their nose turned up. And I remember I was such a bad actor that I was known to whoop polices and all that. People that know me know this already. I whooped 4, 5, 6 laws. I was muscular. I was built. And then they sent me to a program and said I had too much anger, so they sent me to boxing. So I took up boxing, and a lot of people don't know that. And so, but the anger still was there. And I remember the last time I got high, I was gonna commit suicide. I've tried so many other times, and I remember locking myself up in my room. I stayed up in that room 13 days, and I didn't eat. I barely slept. I didn't drink any water. I just got high. I got high and I drank. And I drank MD 2020. I drink Bush beer, Jack Daniels. I had bought me all this, and on that 14th day, I woke up. I opened my eyes, and I couldn't move. I tried to say something. I couldn't talk. And so I began to cry. And I began to tell God, let me die. I can't stop getting high. I have cried out to you and prayed to you ever since I was a little girl. I have prayed and cried out to you ever since I was a little girl, and yet my cries went unheard. I said, in my mind, I'm talking to him. I'm saying, you don't want me in heaven, and the devil don't want me in hell. So where do I belong? Was I born here just to suffer? And I remember I'm just crying, but I couldn't move. I tried to move my leg, and I laid there and booed and pissed all on myself. I couldn't help it. I couldn't move. And then I remember, and I remember saying, if you deliver me, if you take away the pain, if you take away the alcohol and the drugs, I would dedicate my life to you. And I remember just crying. And all of a sudden I moved, my arm moved and my leg moved. I was still weak, but I fell out the bed and crawled to the bathroom and drawed water in the tub and took about 3 baths. That's how messed up I was. And I remember getting dressed and walking down to the lobby. After getting to the lobby, I remember the lady said, oh my God, and that's the last thing I remember. I woke up in LBJ Hospital, and I remember I opened my eyes and the doctor was standing there, and he said, oh, you back with us. He said, your husband just left. And he said, I say, back with you? I said, where am I? He said, you're in the hospital. He said, you died. And when he said I died, and he said, and I brought you back. And I became so angry and enraged with this man. And I said, what right did you have to do that? I wanted to die. I don't want to be here. And that man looked at me and said these words. He said, my job is to save lives, and God got something he wants you to do. And when he said that, I remembered the promise that I made to him. And I wind up going to Pasadena, New Hope. And I went through hell. I remember going there when my sugar daddy at the time took me. They was having a marathon meeting, bikers everywhere, white people everywhere. And I remember driving up when he drove me up with his car, and I said, oh, hell no. I said, this Ku Klux Klan territory. I'm not getting out here. And he got out the bag. He threw my bag out the car. He said, you gonna go in there and get you some help. And so he threw my bag out, got back in the car, opened my door, I get out, and I head on in the door. And as I'm going through the door, it's this great big tall white man with a great big old brim hat on, with a big old cigar in his mouth about that big round. And he was coming behind me. And as I'm coming finna walk through the door behind him, he looked back at me and he slammed the door in my face. It missed me this much. And I said, everywhere I go, I gotta fight. And that was true. I don't know why it occurred like that. It was like I was hated by women and despised by women, and a sexual toy for men, or a hatred from the white folks. And so I was just angry and tired. And so I go in, and when I go in, they're having a meeting, and the lady explained the rules and everything. And so I was there for 29 days, but through that 29 days, it was another black girl there, but she acted like she was white, talked proper and everything. She acted like she didn't never say nothing to me. And so my job was to clean the bathroom. The whole time I was there, I was called a nigger, a monkey, a smut, a bitch. It was just always something with these white folks. And then the black girl, she just bust out and start laughing but I didn't say anything because I knew who I was, and I know that if I got loose, I'll fuck something up. So I took it. But on the 29th day, they was having another big marathon meeting, and the lady said, Miss Johnson, you need to go clean the restrooms. And so I walked in the restroom with all the products and everything, and 3 white girls walked in. And as I'm standing there cleaning the mirror, one of the white girls that always picked at me came up and knocked everything on the floor. Move out the way. Move out the way, you black ass nigga. And the other 2 bust down and started laughing. Well, I had took enough. I grabbed her, wrapped her hair around my hand, and I hit her with my fist. And when I hit her, the other 2 ran out the restroom. And then I drug her out the bathroom, and it was a whole bunch of white folks and people out there for the meeting. And she's screaming. And I drugged her out the bathroom, and I said, and when I did, everybody stopped talking. Nobody said anything. And I screamed to the top of my voice. I said, I'm not going to be now another nigger, now another monkey, and now another smut. My mother named me Carolyn. I said, and the next time anybody say anything out the way, I'm ready to fight. I say, now what all y'all can do, and then I hit the white girl again, and I slung her. And when I slung her, I pulled down my pants. I say, now all y'all can kiss my black ass. And I walked up to the bar. I told the lady, give me my money. Because I was finna go get high, y'all. I was finna go get me a drink. That's the only thing that can handle this rage in me. But right before so the lady gave me my money and stuff. She said, well, what about your things, Miss Johnson? I said, y'all motherfuckers can have it. I don't want nothing in here. And so as I was walking out the door, it was this old white man sitting there. And as he was sitting there, he said, can I say something to you, ma'am? And the only reason why I stopped is because he was my elder. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, you remember the movie Roots? And I'm saying to myself, yes, sir. But in my mind, I'm saying, will you hurry up? Because I need to, my cab coming. I'm finna go get me a room. I'm finna go get me something to drink. I'm finna go get me something to smoke. And so he said, you remember who Kuta Kinte was in Kizzy? And I said, yes, sir. He said, do you remember why they cut off Kuta Kinte feet? And I'm so enraged, y'all. I can't remember nothing. I said, sir, at this time, I can't think. No, I don't. He said he cut off his foot to keep him from running. He said, when you gonna stop running and face your slaves? And I said, yes, sir. And I walked out the door. And when the door closed behind me, I said, I ain't got no goddamn slaves. And when I said this, y'all, all of a sudden, this voice said, when you gonna forgive your mama for what she did? When you gonna forgive your daddy for what he did? When you gonna forgive your brother for what he did? When you gonna forgive your stepbrothers for... It named everybody that had ever done me something. When you gonna forget the police? It was just, and all I could do, it seemed like all the weight in my legs left my body, and I fell on my knees, and all I could do was just scream. I screamed so loud, all I could do was just scream and cry. And I remember screaming, I forgive you, mama. And at the preview of my vision, I seen the door open. I seen that old white man come out. And everybody ran outside. There was people already out there, but more people ran out. And I remember I couldn't stop screaming. I just couldn't. And I remember him saying, don't nobody touch her, and don't nobody say nothing to her. And I don't know how long I was down there. But when I finished, it felt like something had stepped out of my body, and I was set free. And that was over 13 years ago. Because January the 2nd, I'll have 14 years clean and sober. And that's only God. And so today I know how to stay humble and meek and forgive. And I just want y'all to reach out to somebody that's going through something, because you don't know their story. And this is only part of my story, y'all. I remember the psychiatrist telling me, my God, it's amazing you're not dead or insane. And I've been to the insane facilities too, but only God's grace and mercy has kept me. So I'm making this a video to tell y'all, don't look past the homeless. Don't look down on somebody because they're on alcohol and drugs. You don't know their pain. You don't know their story. You don't know where they've been. Instead of turning your back and looking down on them, or saying, I ain't gonna give them my money, give them, bless them. You don't know what they need. You might be the one to save their life, So, just know, I pray I'm in the verge of writing a book about my story, and hope that it be inspiration for others to overcome, because God has kept me, and my life is only His grace and mercy that I know in favor, that I know has kept me. And so I went through what I had to go through. Sometimes we go through things and we don't understand it at that time, but I know that what I went through was to help someone else. And so I just want everybody to know that you are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, you are appreciated. And trust the process and trust God. And don't overlook someone that's hurting. I don't care if they white, Mexican, Chinese, black. We all are human, and we all have feelings. So be an encourager, a strength for somebody else that needs you. And may God bless each one of you. And remember to always pray, no matter what. I never stopped praying. Even when I never stopped praying. I have a relationship with my family. I have forgiven a lot, and it's easier for me to forgive now than it was back then, So with that being said, everybody have a blessed day, and hopefully I'll have my book out finished by sometime next year or the end of next year. And so just know that it's some of us out here that are truly filled with love and compassion for others. Now I'm not gonna say now I still have that beast mentality as far as certain things, but I'm humble. I don't, when it comes to doing somebody wrong or mistreating somebody, I can't take that. I not in me see it with my eyes. I just can't. Or a child, or you mistreat a child. I can't. And I'm praying on that because I the beast to come out of me as far as that, you know. But let's be mindful of one another, and nobody is better than anybody or above than anybody, and beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Don't think that you won't be a person that could be homeless or be on drugs or lose everything you have, because it's not exempt. I'm telling you. And so show some compassion and some understanding and some respect and some dignity, you know, and some love, and pray for the homeless and the needy and the community. You know, we all bleed red, you know, and believe it or not, and you don't have to take my word for it, just study. Mexicans, Indians, whites, we all blood. We all kinfolks. You know, it might be hard for some to accept, but we all, we all kin. Now, every nationality come from us black people. But when you look at somebody else, ask God to show you, let you see love, you know, and compassion for people, man. You know, it's enough that we, every nationality has put their mouth on blacks and think we're nothing but animals. So what? We know who we are. And I had to learn that. I know who I am today. And I am a child of the Most High God, you know, and all my sisters and brothers is kings and queens, you know, and I have much love. Much love. And I would like to also send a shout out to my pastor and his wife, Pastor Paul, um, um, and Paul Taylor. No, I think I'm saying it right. And First Lady, I always can't pronounce her name, but I'm so grateful for both of them, and I'm grateful for the women that are in the ministry and the sisterhood. It is such a beautiful thing that God has blessed me to be a part of, because I never felt loved or wanted or needed, you know. And so to be shown that, and to be shown grace, and to be shown that you are somebody and you appreciate it, after being told that you will never mount up to nothing, you'll never be nothing, you're ugly, you know, and you feel these things, but for somebody to come along and embrace you and tell you you are worthy to be loved, you are worthy to be needed, that is beautiful, you know. So reach out today and tell somebody you love them. Praise God. Everybody have a blessed day. Amen.